जी।
अच्छा, सबको सादर नमस्ते। डॉक्टर राजेंद्र गांधी बड़े भाई हैं। उनका आशीर्वाद, स्नेह, उनका मार्गदर्शन जीवन भर मिलता रहा है, मिलता रहेगा। प्रभु से प्रार्थना है कि वो पश्येम शरद शतम जीवेम शरद शतम। एंड आई नमस्ते टू एवरीवन। ओम शं नो मित्र शं वरुण शं नो भवत अर्यमा शं न इंद्रो बृहस्पति शं नो विष्णु रुरुक्रमा नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो तुमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म असि तुमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्माम अवतु तद्वक्तारम अवतु अवतु माम अवतु वक्तारम। With that prayer, I will start. A little disclaimer: I don't profess to be an Ayurvedic practicing physician. I'm a gastroenterologist, but since we are a student of Dayanand and have a little bit of understanding of some of the basic principles, and being a gastroenterologist, I found it interesting, and I'll do my best. Many of you, if you know more or have comments or questions, please feel free at the end. So what I have done here, since Shushrut and Charak, those are the two men who have written the treatise on Ayurveda, I will mention what they quote, what Ayurveda is, what it is, what is the history, what are the basics, what parts of Ayurveda are there, and then how it is can be practiced, some medications. And since yoga is an integral part of the treatment, since it's a holistic approach, I have a little bit light on yoga if the time permits. So here I go. The definition of health, स्वास्थ्य की परिभाषा, इससे अच्छी परिभाषा मुझे जीवन में मिली नहीं. ये सुश्रुत was a surgeon about 1500 BC or so. देखिए आप, very holistic. सम दोष है, सम अग्निश्च, सम धातु मल क्रिय, प्रसन्न आत्म इंद्रिय मन, स्वस्थ इत्य अभिधीयते, which means the whole system of Ayurvedic practice is on dosh. Now, dosh here is the body type, not a defect. Dosh, so it has to be in balance. So the air, fire, and water, the three types of body types. So some dosha, it has to be in balance. Some dosha, some agni, fire, digestive fire, assimilation. I'll dwell on it in next couple of slides. Dhatu means our different body parts, for example, blood, for example, bones, for example, semen and serous fluids, and spinal fluid and so forth. And of course, the excretory function. So four things. One is the dosh, the digestive, and then one is the different body parts and the excretory functions. They have to be in a balance. And then what is very important is prasanna atma indriya mana. That means we have body, we have our senses, and that turns right into the yogic yam niyam asana pranayam. It goes right into that. So we have body parts, we have our senses, and then there is a mind, man, but in between senses and mind is the pran. It is the pran shakti. Just for example, we have this light bulb. The light is there only along electricity flows. That's a Shakti. Behind our eyes, behind our ears. So that one, and then comes the intellect, and then comes the soul. So the soul is considered the programmer. Like if you take an example of the computer, the body is like the hardware, and the mind and intellect and prana is like the software. So all of that have to be in the balance. And that is the perfect definition of health. Now, just to see that why do we get sick? Just an example, we have 100 trillion bacteria in our GI tract, 10 trillion cells. So 10 times some other organism living. So there is an immunity of the gut, we can't dwell on it, long topic. And then it is the coping with the various stresses of life. That's what makes us sick. That body pains, hypertension, heart disease, how we can deal with it. And of course, there are some genetic examples too, genetic values and genetic situation is there, which you cannot change. Genes you cannot change. Body is a holistic entity and various body systems are interrelated. So positive thinking, the yoga is important. Now, how can we be healthy? This slide, it doesn't necessarily mean Ayurveda. This is general stuff I have put together, probably good for everyone. So health is both physical, mental, and spiritual. Besides the physical body, we have pran, mind, intellect, and soul, as I referred to. Prevention of disease means keeping a healthy person healthy. In medicine, in the modern medicine, we give medications, we do things, we get a person healthy. But in Ayurveda or in the Vedic principles, keeping a healthy person healthy. Physical, proper lifestyle, diet, exercise, yam, niyam, asan. Food, consume only the food earned with honesty and positive thought. Our Ayurveda teaches us that. बैठ के खाओ, तसल्ली से खाओ, बेईमानी से खाया हुआ बनाया हुआ खाना कभी लगता नहीं अंग में. It's a common principle. Eat less than appetite. Avoid greasy and fried and spicy food and too much condiments. That means a sattvic bhojan karo. Food should be chewed well, swallowed properly. Liquids, including water, should be appropriate in quantity. एक आयुर्वेद में एक बात कहते हैं कि भोजन करते समय पानी नहीं पीना चाहिए. But if somebody has a dry mouth or somebody has a difficulty, don't kill yourself. You can have some water. It should be drank properly. Don't be in rush. Avoiding processed foods, artificial drinks, chocolate, caffeine, soda. This is just a basic principle. Last meal should be at least 3 hours before going to sleep. And as much as possible, try to sleep on the left side. No TV in the bedroom. Avoid, put the phone on silence or mute if possible. Exercise. Now, exercise are 4 different types. One is cardiovascular, strengthening, stretching, and relaxing. These are 4 different types of exercise, and yoga and meditation combine all of this. We have Dr. Om Gandhi, who is a master of that. Self-confidence with high power and desire to keep moving ahead. This is very important, to have positive thought, and try not to resist or delay urge to urinate or bowel movement. I'll give you a classic example. One of the nurses in the surgery center told me that she has a 5-year-old daughter who started school 10 days ago. And in last 10 days, she has not had a bowel movement, and she did it every day. This is a classic example of that. What is the definition of Ayurveda? Ayurveda yati iti Ayurveda, which means science which helps improve life, is Ayurveda. In Spanish, when we talk to people, when say, do you get better? Ayudar. It's the same exact word in Spanish. So also in Charang Samhita, look at this, what Ayurveda deals with. Hita hitam, sukham dukkham ayustasya hita hitam, manam cha tach yatroktam Ayurveda sa uchyate. That means Ayurveda deals with good and bad life, happy and unhappy life, explains what promotes health and what affects health adversely. Healthy and a happy person is the one who is devoid of mind and body imbalance. Same. Some dosha, some agni is pretty much the explanation of that. Now, back to the individual components of that first shlok we had. Dosha can be defined as the biological types, which means literally that which contaminates is called dosha. Whatever defect comes in, imbalance in dosha causes disease, and defect in dhatus, toxin, water. So it is the dosh which is most important. 3 types of dosh: Vat, Pitta, and Kapha. Remember, my talk is on the Ayurveda. Vat is the air element which governs inhalation, exhalation, movement, discharges, impulses, and human senses. Now, when we talk of this, we begin to think about which body system does it belong to. I think it's all intermixed. We can't really separate them For example, if somebody has a joint pain, आपको वात का रोग हो गया, वात घुस गई है. There is no air inside, but that's how it is explained. Pith is a fire element, means we eat food, there's a digestion, absorption, assimilation, and the movement. So it seems like we are talking about a digestive system, the cardiovascular system, and to some extent neurological system, and some extent the body, bones and its movement and all that. Kapha is a water element which controls stability, lubrication, movement, again, the body movement, cardiovascular system, and basically the orthopedics, luster, digestive glands, endocrine system, this all mixed up. So 3 dosh. Then some dosha, some agni. Agni means digestion, absorption, and assimilation. And then when some dosha, some agni, dhatu is plasma, blood, muscle, bone, fat, and then seminal fluid in men. And it's called artav in women, the vaginal discharge. In Atharvaved, 7 dhatus have been referred to as saptamatram. It's just a word there. And these are deemed vital for maintaining perfect health. Excretory function is very important. Now, this is about that dhatu. Now, history of Ayurveda. How did it all start? Now, we always say, Ved sab satya vidyaon ka pustak hai. Ved, source of all knowledge. So let's see what the different Ved talk about Ayurveda. Rig Ved. Now, Ayurveda is a Upved of Rig Ved, but most of the information of Ayurveda is in Atharvaved. So there are mantras in this Ved, defined purpose of Ayurveda, qualities of the healer. जैसे राज धर्म जो है सत्यार्थ प्रकाश में और मनुस्मृति में, उसमें राजा कैसा होना चाहिए, इसमें है कि जो वैद्य जो है वो कैसा होना चाहिए. एक स्टोरी है, एक माँ बच्चे को लेके गई वैद्य जी के पास में, पेट में दर्द था उसके, तो वैद्य जी कहने लगे कि 2 हफ्ते बाद लाना. फिर गई 2 हफ्ते बाद, फिर कहा कि 2 हफ्ते बाद फिर लाना. 3 महीने हो गए, फिर उसके बाद में कहा कि इसको बैंगन मत खिलाना. The mother was mad. I said, why are you telling me after 3 months? He said, उस वक्त मैं भी बैंगन खाता था. The point of the matter is, the healer has to have qualities. Uses of medications, various parts of body, surgery, so all those are described into the Rig Ved. Yajurved mostly deals with the Karma Kand, but even this has some medications and body parts and all that. Samved is pure devotion. Now it is the Atharvaved which is the main basis of Ayurveda, where describe the different types of the physician, science of longevity, how to be free of illness, the sexual dysfunction, urology, parasitology, all those things. Imagine all these things described either at the inception of humanity or many, many thousand years ago. Its modern medicine has developed only in last 100, 150, 200 years. ब्राह्मण ग्रंथों में मेनली कर्म कांड है, तो इसमें भी ये बताया कि अगर चौमासा जो यज्ञ होता है ना, 4 बार साल में यज्ञ करने का, that to reduce the illness, और किस मौसम में क्या खाना चाहिए. आप किसी वैद्य से बात करो, कहेगा इस मौसम में ये खाना चाहिए. उसकी भावना ये है कि जिस मौसम में जो चीज सबसे अच्छी फ्रेश मिले, जो सस्ती मिले, अच्छी मिले, वो खाओ, rather than something which is stored for a long time. That's the concept behind it. Now, subsequent literature is sketchy until the time of Aitriya Punarvasu. Aitriya Punarvasu कितना पुराना है, nobody knows, but he was the first ancient person who took the material out of these scriptures, and one of his students was Agnivesh, and Agnivesh is the one who wrote Agnivesh Sanhita. And it is on the basis of this scripture that Charak and Sanhita and Shushrut wrote their books. So Charak means one who has traveled and learned. It's about, again, 1500 years BC, so about 3500 years ago. Now, the last 17 chapters of Charak Sanhita are additions by Dhritbala. This book deals with medicine. Similarly, Dhanvantari का आपने नाम सुना होगा, a prominent in the field of surgery or Shalya Chikitsa. Now, this may have been the basis of Shushrut Sanhita, or main scripture in the field of surgery. The last chapter of this book was probably written by Nagarjuna. Now both Charak and Shushruta probably 1500 BC. After Shushruta and Charak, next in line was Vagbhat, one who is eloquent, who probably existed 2nd century BC. He summarized and assimilated the work of Charak and Shushruta in form of 2 books, Ashtang Sangraha and Ashtang Hridaya. So still the history. Then on the 8th to 11th century, there were series of scholars who worked, and their name were Madhvakar, उन्होंने भाव मिश्रा, माधव निधान उन्होंने लिखा, और उसके बाद में हुआ था श्रृंगधर. All these together are names, is not possible to remember, but the bottom line is there was a research, and these 3 are known as the Laghu Trayi, means the lesser 3. Now later on, not much happened, as we know. Lately, there's a lot of research going on in All India Institute. There are about many Ayurvedic college, and I just was recently had the privilege to go to Patanjali University in Haridwar just about 2 weeks ago, and it's an amazing research going on there. Yagya therapy, yoga therapy, nature therapy, all kinds, and there is research going on. Interestingly, there was a statement by Molinier in 17th century about the modern medicine. And listen to, and I'm not putting down the modern medicine, just a statement. Physicians are people who poured medicines of which they knew little into the bodies of which they knew even less. This is 17th century, 400 years ago. And look where we are today. We are all impressed and dependent on modern medicine. Parallel development has not occurred in Ayurveda. Actually, the basic approach is quite different in Ayurveda. So it is the basic principle which are useful. Now, Ayurveda has 8 parts. One is internal medicine, Kaya Chikitsa, surgery or Shalya Chikitsa, pediatrics or Kumar Bhratya, psychiatry. Imagine all those things there. ENT or Shalakya Tantra. We have toxicology or Agadha Tantra, which deals with the toxins derived from vegetable, minerals, and plants. The concept of pollution of air and water in certain place has been given special consideration. Imagine if we paid attention, there wouldn't have been the need for Earth Day. The rivers would have been clean. The air would have been clean if we followed this. Science of rejuvenation or rasayan, this seems like a geriatric. The main aim is to promote healthy living, not just treatment of after you get sick. The most expenses in medicine occur today in the last year of life. We probably could prevent some of this if we follow these basic principles. It promotes the long and healthy life, and then virilization or deals with the science of sexual dysfunction. These are the 8 parts. Now, how do we tie all of this history and information together? And I found this very interesting, that there are 4 categories in which we can put down the approach of Ayurveda. 4 categories. And look at this. One is Atharvani, means natural. Yoga and meditation, positive thought to prevent mental and physical illness. That is the first part. And I will have some slides on the yoga. Angirasi means thing which has been taken out of plant, taken out of a human. For example, organ transplant, blood transfusions, medications extracted from plants, some sort of a surgery. So Atharvani, Angirasi, and Devi. Devi means, and I was there in Patanjali, I saw there was a sun therapy, there was a yagya therapy, that is air therapy, water therapy. All these natural therapy or are the prakritik chikitsa jo hai, that comes under the Devi. So we have yoga meditation, we have Angirasi or nutrition sciences taken from plants, surgery, and finally Manvi means human creation, means जैसे चूरण होता है ना, कोई बनाते हैं, वैद्य जी के पास जाओ तो यू चूरण खा लो. That means we have taken things out of nature or made some changes and prepared some medication. So in 4 different categories, the Ayurvedic medications fall. Now, I think I probably have some time. So I will go into a little bit about the preventive, the first way of being Ayurvedic medicine. This yoga is an integral part. So we have Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. I just want to say the first five are for the outside. Dharana, Dhyan, and Samadhi, last pieces are essentially for the mind and intellect, and then how the soul you can connect and you can disconnect yourself. The physical body, the pran, the man, you can disconnect them and relax and increase the parasympathetic activity, reduce the sympathetic activity. You see, nitric oxide, we have acetylcholine, these are parasympathetic. They relax, they reduce the blood pressure. Sympathetic, on the other hand, is fight and flight, so which you will see. When we do the pranayam, normally when we are breathing, we are probably using 500 to 600 cc's of air. If you take a deep breath and breathe out with that pranayam, Kapalbhati, or we do Bhasrika pranayam, deep breathing, we're using vital capacity. And if we breathe out completely and breathe more out, we are bringing in residual volume. So technically, by doing breathing exercises or pranayam, we can convert that half a liter or 0.6 into almost over 5 liters. It also strengthens our respiratory muscles, increases capacity, reduces the, for example, we have a sleep apnea, even exercise, obesity is reduced if you do the pranayam properly, all the sinus problem, all kinds of allergic problems. Now, oxygenation is better as well. Some oxygen is dissolved into the blood, not necessarily oxyhemoglobin. That is increased with the yoga. You will have a better endurance. Now, yoga and aging process, there is one word most people who give talk on yoga talk about telomere. So this is present on chromosome as the cell divide. As we get older, this gets lost, some of shorter. So yoga practice helps reduce that loss. That means it will help in reduction of aging. Immunity, with the COVID, immunity is very important. So increases the number of killer cells. It increases the power in our saliva, anti-tumor necrosis factor, interleukins, C-reactive protein, all these oxidative stress, all these things which cause stress, it is all reduced. And there are lots and lots of papers to prove that practice of yoga helps the immune system, reduces stress, reduces the torture, constant banging we have with our thoughts. This was a research where they reduced the blood pressure by practice of yoga. Now, in the brain, the two words are very important. One is amygdala, one is hippocampus. There are others, the limbic system, the forebrain. The back of the brain or parietal lobe is called the orientation association area. The front lobe is called the attention association area. So when we do the yoga, when we do the pranayam, our orientation goes down, our attention, so you can focus better, you can have better grades, better judgment. So, and then hypothalamic pituitary adrenal system is changed, which means we have more parasympathetic activity and less sympathetic activity. As in this slide, we have hypothalamus, we have pituitary, and you have this adrenal gland where outside makes the steroid, inside makes the adrenal hormone, all necessary. But this activity goes down, the blood pressure goes down, the blood sugars goes down, all of that as a result of yoga, practice of yoga. So pretty much what it does, this slide summarizes that increased parasympathetic activity. Now we have 5 chemicals very important in the practice of yoga: dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, endorphin, and GABA or gamma amino butyric acid. This GABA, when we give propofol, when we do an endoscopy, it's the pro-GABA. That means it reduces the activity. And with the practice of yoga, it also increases. That means it suppresses the neural activity. So it prevents you from getting very excited. The other chemicals, the dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, endorphin, they are called the happy hormones. For example, when mom has the baby, automatically oxytocin is what makes the milk into the breast. When we do a lot of exercise of whatever nature, including yoga, we say we feel good. That's the morphine. Our body is a pharmacy. We can bring it into action. It reduces the blood glucose, blood pressure, cholesterol, thyroid hormone, all those things. You can walk better and less dependent on drugs, less depression. So yoga can be useful in sleep disorders, substance abuse, arthritic, cardiovascular. One thing interesting, most heart attacks occur first thing in the morning about 4 o'clock. If you get up before 4 o'clock, chances are that you may not have that heart attack if you are doing practice of yoga and getting up early. कहते हैं कि जिस मनुष्य के शरीर पर सूर्य की किरणें सोते हुए पड़ गई, उसका तेज नष्ट हो जाता है. We hear that often. Genitourinary function, irritable bowel syndrome, palpitations, we have frequency of urination, frequency of defecation, headache, migraine, all of those things can be improved with the practice of yoga. So this is pretty much the same thing. Now, stress. Stress, I think we've already gone into, no, I'm going backwards.
Doctor, we have 2 minutes left.
Okay, fine, perfect. Now, some medications. So I have done very little on the Ayurveda prevention. One medication is Sitophaladi. You can look at it. Everybody knows, bachpan se sunte aaye hain. It has some value. This is just the names. Again, I don't profess to be Ayurvedic physician, no way or form. But ek baar Ramdev ji se maine suna tha कि if there was to choose one medication, that would be Giloy. There is something called Arogyavati, and I'm not trying to promote any product or anything, but there is something called Arogyavati which has a neem, tulsi and Giloy. It is very useful. तुलसी अपने आप पूजा होती है, बचपन से देखते हैं कि तुलसी घर में होती है, उसकी पूजा होती है, उसके पत्ते खाना चाहिए. It removes excess cough, lungs, upper digestive function. It has a value. लेकिन कहते हैं तुलसी को चबाना नहीं चाहिए. It is more acidic. You lose enamel of the teeth. So चबाना नहीं चाहिए उसको. Ashwagandha is Indian ginseng, but don't take ashwagandha in the morning. It can make you tired and sleepy. So it has a value. Immune system, it reduces the blood sugar in diabetic people. And again, some studies are there, some not there, but ashwagandha जिसको बोलते हैं ना, ये root होती है. This is just a root powder. Then Chavanprash. Chavanprash is very common when you want to have some energy because it has amla, sugar, honey, ghee. It's very high calories, but amla, the antioxidant and the fiber, that's the main ingredient, I believe in that. Giloy. Now, Giloy, as I mentioned, is very, very good. अपने तना होता है, it just a stem grows everywhere in India. उसका रात को भिगो दो, सुबह, but then our pills are available too. It boosts immunity, treats chronic fever, improves digestion, diabetes. Some of these are proven, some of these are just observation. The bottom line is Giloy is very useful. Anu tel, then there is something called Shwashari Ras. So mostly for digestive, respiratory, and arthritic disorders, these things are useful. So this is just some of it. So, in summarized it, Ayurveda is a science which has a holistic approach to promote mental and physical health and happiness, improved quality of life. It leads to equilibrium of body, better eating, proper sleep. जो इंसान जल्दी सोएगा वो जल्दी उठेगा भी, उसकी habits भी different होंगी. So when we compare the knowledge of anatomy, physiology, pathophysiology, and treatment of various illnesses, we can see these in modern medicine, these concepts, even though we have existed for thousands of years, seem very modern when we talk about the basic principles. So Ayurveda ki jo overall, it seems very confusing, but basic principles are very important, which means, for example, absolutely no question that benefit of yoga practice with emphasis on pranayama and meditation exceed any comparative thing that modern medicine has to offer. 10% in United States practice yoga, 10% in India, probably more now. On the other hand, modern medicine has gone ahead by leaps and bounds in the management of specific diseases and is and will remain the mainstay of treatment of most illnesses. However, research in Ayurvedic medicine may produce some gem and should be pursued, and it is being pursued. Next 10 slides have the references. कौन से वेद में कौन से पार्ट का क्या है? I'll just see अथर्ववेद, सुश्रुत संहिता, कितनी arteries हैं, कितनी veins, रामायण, महाभारत.
Ramesh ji, I think you have overpassed the time, Ramesh ji. Maybe they can just look at. I think you should finish the talk. No?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I got a lot of warnings. I have been getting a lot of warnings from the organizers. So I have to request you to.
Okay.
Very nice talk.
Thank you. So now references. So Atharvaved mein, there are 42 parts of body have been described. Can you believe it? 36 qualities of mind have been described in Atharvaved. And there are references I have given specific. Shushruta has described that heart is in the shape of upside down lotus. 3,500 years ago, he described the anatomy. And it's also mentioned that it contracts and relaxes and that it's,
So we won't have,
Ramesh
ji, we won't have any time for question and answers because your time is finished, no? Ramesh.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll finish it.
Sorry to tell you, I'm getting every minute a notice to finish it. Okay. Thank you very much, Ramesh ji. It was a lot of information. We appreciate your presentation. So I think it's a lot of information. So, I can't really repeat what Ramesh ji said. Only thing I could say is that Ayurveda is a very old tradition in 5,000-year-old tradition. And a lot of places have studying Ayurveda now. In Stanford University, they have Ayurvedic physicians also talking about it. So it's mainly is that it's important to do yoga meditation and all the practices that Ramesh ji mentioned. And also, we have to eat the proper diet. We have to do exercise and meditation. All those things will help with the longevity of life. You have a better health. It's helpful in your heart. It takes away the functional disorders like gastroesophageal reflux, irritable bowel syndrome, arthritis, all the autoimmune diseases it help. And so since the time is limited, I'm saying that it's a natural treatment to prolong our life and understand ourselves. All the practices taught in our daily, yagya and all are all applicable to this, as well as yoga meditation. Those are the basics, and it prolongs our life as well and help all the other anxiety, depression, all these disorders have been helped by Ayurveda. I think there's a great future for Ayurveda. I've listened to some of the scholars in this country who are trying to understand. Again, thank you very much, Ramesh ji, for telling us so much in such a little time. Thank you.
Excellent talk, Dr. Saab. And there are 5 minutes for a couple of questions. So I'll start reading from the chat, and then hopefully you can answer some of them, Dr. Saab. So first question was, as you mentioned, that we should sleep on the left side. So the question is, why should we sleep on the left side?
Okay. Most easiest question you asked. Huh? Yeah. You see the entry of the esophagus into below the diaphragm is on the hiatus is on the left side, and then the gastric fundus is on the left side. So when we sleep on the left side, more the food stays there. First of all, we need 3 hours gap between eating and sleeping. So the food is on the left side. So reflux is less. Reflux kya hota hai? You have snoring, sleep apnea, all those things occur. And then dream sleep, poor sleep, all that occurs. So sleeping on the left side and not having any food within 3 hours of going to sleep is the most important. Now, some people have difficulty sleeping left side. There's one of the treatment of snoring to sleep on the left side.
Okay, Dr. Saab, one more question there was from Sudhir Arya. How does this relate to modern medicine?
Yes, there are aspects of modern medicine. You see, right now we have vaccinations, prevention of disease in terms of general lifestyle. If one thing we can get out of basic Vedic principles or Ayurvedic is the don't even to get to that point when you need to be sick, which means you are getting up early, you're sleeping in time, your food is proper, you're doing the exercise, yoga, meditation, all this is relaxed, you're toning down cardiovascular system, less arthritic, less cardiovascular. So as far as general principles is concerned, it's great. But when it comes to specific, you're having a chest pain, you're having a coronary attack, don't depend on Ayurveda, you're going to die. If you have intestinal obstruction, there's a tumor there or intercession something, go to Dr. Gandhi if there's a kid who is having for him to do the surgery rather than going to a place of worship and depending on this. So in terms of basic principles, this thing, even there, we see this, some of this hemorrhoid surgery. I have seen Ayurvedic physician doing hemorrhoid surgery. It is very rudimentary. I was not impressed at all. It takes 2 minutes to put a rubber band. So not everything has a place, but in terms of general principles of life, natural following, it's amazing. Body, mind has a lot to immunity levels.
Doctor, last question. What is the best time to take ashwagandha dose and how to ingest it?
At night, maybe a tablespoon or two, increase it slowly. Don't take it all. Otherwise, you'll be very sleepy even in the morning. And it doesn't have any other side effect.
And the absolute last question that was posted was Sanjeev Goyalji. Are there any specific brands which prepare Ayurvedic medicine as prescribed?
Okay. I am big fan of Ramdevji. He has put yoga and everything into our lab. All the money stays in India and 100% of it is donated. So I will support, for example, Hamdard and all that. So you know what I'm trying to say. Not a, I don't want to say that in this open forum, but so I would support that 100%. But again, I have nothing to do with it. But you asked me a question, so I answered.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. I think that's the end of the questions that were posted. If any other question comes, I'll be happy to connect the people with you, or maybe we can have you write an.
I was recently at the Patanjali Yogagram and his university, then the mega store. Everything is available and dirt cheap. At the airport, the prices are same as in the store. Other prices are 4 times inside the terminal.
Thank you.
So I would promote that.
Okay. Thank you so very much. Appreciate the talk and answers.
And thank you for giving me the opportunity, and best wishes to everyone. Thank you and best wishes for the Sammelan. Thank you.